Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the rank 1 Terran in the blue, the Frenchman from Team Liquid. It's Clem. Facing off against the Protoss powerhouse in the red, we have Classic. In a best of 5 Terran versus Protoss showdown. And whether you like Clem's early game aggression or Classic's late game strategy, it'd be amazing if you could meet me in the middle and smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,678 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the first probe. Clem, a citizen's arrest, executed the probe for trespassing, a capital offense. And like most things are for the Terrans, and the Reaper showing a bit of respect, looking for potential proxies, because why was that probe being so nosy? Why was it getting all up in his business, all up in his face? And that's just because that's who probes are. Okay, but Clem covering his bases, literally and figuratively. Clem is arguably one of the top 3 Protoss versus Terran players in the world. As Protoss. Present company included. I'd say Classic, and then MaxPax, and then Clem. So he is very aware of the potential timings, the weaknesses, and more importantly, the strengths, and when Protoss can be most dangerous. And even demonstrating it now. The Reaper and 2 Marines back at home, meet and greet with the first Adept, who is not a big fan of getting up close and personal with the Terrans. We'll throw some shade and escape for now. And unless I can find a healing shrine over to the other side of the map, is permanently damaged. But Clem, almost picking off the Adept as well as getting the first probe. Small things, but they add up. All right, but I'm not here to do math. You can count on that. Starport halfway done, and blank the kind of one-size-fits-all response. And not very well. Okay, it's like cargo pants. If you get close enough and you bring a belt, then it should get the job done, but blank is strong enough to keep the Terran from doing a direct assault early on. There's simply nothing that can chase down the Blink Stalkers. It also helps deal with your amalgamation of starport shenanigans, whether it's a Widow Mine drop like Clem is doing right now, early Raven, Banshees, Blink Stalkers can deflect it all. It also forces the Terran to play a little more defensive. The entire early game is based around blink and anti-blink timings, because at some point, as the additional barracks come online, the Terran player regains that map control. The Stim and the Medivacs will simply punch through the Blink Stalkers, no matter how fast you dance across the map and how perfect the micro. Pound for pound, and the Stalkers don't weigh that much, but pound for pound, they're not able to compete with the Marines, the Marauders, and the Medivacs. But I'm getting ahead of myself, as the Widow Mine drop was not spotted, though it was anticipated. Classic with the Stalkers in position already. Pulls the probes away. The Medivac will be taken out the moment before the Widow Mine missile slams into the Stalker. The Widow Mine's now exposed. There's a Hellion on the low ground. Just darts in. Gonna get a few probe kills. 3 in total. But he loses the Medivac, the Hellion, and both Widow Mines. I'd say Classic defended that with a resounding success. He lost 1 Stalker, which is a bit costly. But the entirety of early game pressure. If he got the Medivac out, I would say that's a pretty okay-ish trade for Clem. But no, Classic targeted the Medivac out of the sky as the very first thing. Even sacrificed a Stalker for it. But limiting that starport production time is by far the most important thing. The best Protoss players will put a complete premium on sniping off starport units, no matter what they are or when they come out. Because that is the most limiting factor for Terran. If they don't have the Medivacs, the Vikings, or Liberators later on, they can't exert nearly as much control over the map. So what I'm trying to say is losing that Medivac kind of sucks. The Raven, sneaking in. Templar Archives already on the way for Classic. He is a Stormcaller. A lot of other Protoss usually go straight into Colossi. A bit lower hanging fruit, somewhat puns intended considering Colossi are the tallest unit that still technically has legs, but the Slender Man of Protoss. Anyways. But Storm, one thing that Terrans don't have early on is Ghosts. There's no easy answer to Storm. It is incredibly expensive to get to the Templar Archives. It's a big investment. Each Templar at 150 gas is almost as much as a Colossus in and of itself. But these storms hit hard and are very difficult to react to, especially if you're trying to concentrate your firepower by making, well, it's called a bio ball, not a bio crosshatch spread. Or I couldn't come up with something that's like a net, like a net. There you go. Don't need to say it 3 times. It makes it sound like I just discovered the word. But speaking of discovery, the Stalkers blink right into the pincer medevacs as Clem is able to pick off a couple more. 20 supply lead, but Storm is 20 seconds out. I believe a feedback hit the Raven. 0 out of 5. Tried to murder my friends. He reveals the Templar, but Storm 6, 5. Well, actually chrono boosted, so my timings were off. But Storm is complete, and the first one will land. The Templar taking a taste of it themselves. And just like that, Clem struggling. He loads up, going to try to dive away. The medevacs looking to divide and conquer, but Classic, he rushed to the Storm, and Clem didn't hit him hard or fast enough in order to deal with it. Now, it's a lot harder to get aggressive with Storm. Fighting into a defensive position, Whittle mines, bunkers, high ground. Storm great on defense, but definitely something that, well, Classic has no intentions. He's barely moved across the map. He moved like 3 stalkers. Okay. The bio to the north side. Classic, able to box it out easily. Does he have a forge? He just started +1, so Clem will have the upgrade advantage. 3rd command center now completed on location. 67 to 55 workers in favor of Classic, but Mules can even some of that out. Ghost Academy is done. The Ghost being trained now. But a Warp Prism is on its way across the map, and there's a Templar in there. A Templar and 2 charge lots. Now for the second flavor of splash damage, the Colossi. The Warp Prism glides directly into the main. Absolutely no warning, and the Storm on the SCVs doing terrible, terrible damage. 17 SCVs annihilated by the Psionic Storm. And Classic just ransacks the economy. Oh, the hurricane damages. Measuring a critical amount here. And Clem goes from a tenuous position economically to a much more desperate one. And he gets out with the Prism, and he gets out with the Templar. It costs Classic almost nothing but time. And the War Prism is still a threat. The reinforcements will cut off some of the charge lots. Clem coming in. The Raven finally got enough energy to put down a couple more auto turrets, but mostly mitigated by the battery. But Classic's defense throughout all of this, there's another Storm ready, but there's so few SCVs left over, it doesn't get too many kills. 8 workers killed. Drops in the back. Triple medevac. He's scanning in order to spot for Templar. Energy recharge is on cooldown for now. Depowers some of this. Double Robo Colossus is in production, not able to depower that. Picks up to avoid the Storm. Clem sending another army across the map. Just the revolving door of Terran here, looking to intercept the Warp Prism as well. Not going to find it. Storms drive back the drops. The main army in position. No Templar with it. Clem can easily engage. 3 medevacs badly bruised. A strong gust of Storm will blow him away, but Classic starting to slip. EMPs miss the mark. Ghosts don't have quite enough energy to follow it up. And so far, Classic gets charge lots into the 3rd again. Clem struggling to keep his SCV count above 50. And if he can't do so, he's not going to be able to produce out of all of his production facilities. That's going to be absolutely critical. There's 2 robotics facilities being chrono boosted. Extended thermal lance is on the way, and mine's already there. +2 ground weapons is in production alongside +1 armor. Does Clem even have an armory? He does not. He does not have access to the next set of upgrades. And things are going from bad to worse for the Frenchman. There's not enough energy for another Storm. 19 kills on that Templar. Clem's up 25 supply, but he can't get out of his base. Classic just keeps dragging him back. And with so few units, 5 or 6 charge lots, a Warp Prism with a Templar, and Clem is unable to move out. Even though Classic doesn't have nearly as much out on the map, some Widowmons dotting the field, he has the Colossi. He has the entire tsunami of Protoss splash damage now. hasn't bothered with disruptors, which are unreliable at best, especially against someone like Clem. But Storm cannot really be avoided. It can be negated with EMP, but the moment a Storm connects, it's doing some damage. Some of the Widow Mines still out there. The dream scenario is hitting the Warp Prism and knocking it out with 2 mines. But he knew. I think he actually just saw it on the field. But dodges. Both players headed towards 200 supply. Clem up to 60 SCVs. Classic is only at 65 probes, incrementing a few more. But he's been laser focused on putting as many lasers as possible on the field. The charge lock count quite high. EMP. Clem trying to stay mobile, keeping dangerous armies on the field, adding more Vikings into the composition. He's got 6 of them now. You usually want at least 2.5 to 3 Vikings per Colossus to deal with them. But he's maxed out, suffering from success. Only 58 SCVs. But Clem is coming in from the back. He's got an army there. EMP hits the Templar. The Storms try to deal with the back line. The EMPs weren't quite enough. But what a surround out of Clem. The Vikings will knock down the Colossi. The Warp Prism reinforces. Classic adapts to the situation quite well. But the Warp Prism will be taken down after all the Colossi are knocked to the ground. And the upgrades helping Classic turn this fight from a total rout into a relatively even exchange. The fact that he only got 1 EMP instead of 2. Overall, Clem does take the better end of the engagement, but Classic did not panic. He held the line, he warped in mid-fight, and managed to get a pretty surprising amount done despite the relatively terrible position. Oh, that Raven. That's going to be a no. That Stalker's trying to... The Raven just got Edgar Allan Poe'd. Nevermore, Winter. Oh, no. Finally gets taken down. Clem set it up perfectly, but the upgrades and the presence of mind from Classic, he was more than ready, despite the poor position. And the key part is that entire fight happened on Clem's side of the map. He couldn't translate that into economic damage. He wasn't going to kill a base. He didn't get a bunch of probes. There was nothing else happening. And that means Classic has been able to rebuild, and it's almost like it never happened. A lot of the Vikings were taken out as well. That count was reset. He's pretty far off thinking about Liberators, especially with range. The Colossi and the Templar. Reconstituted the Warp Prism. Very important. But the Storms. Splitting off the Templar. Mitigating EMP is critical here. Lines up a shot. Snipes off the Templar. Already got the hits. Another one comes through. Most of the Templar are hit. Colossi in position. This Nexus. Clem pre-scanning. That's a huge EMP. Wipes out the energy of the majority of the Templar. Classic going to reluctantly merge them into Archons in a begrudging yet lifelong relationship. Till death do they part. Or EMPs get close enough. 3-3 is on the way for Clem. 3-2 in production for Classic. Definitely has a lead on it. Energy recharge. Observer in a perfect position to spot... He missed 2 EMPs trying to hit that Observer. Because it's actually technically on the high ground. I think he aimed and it went past the little doodad on the pervert pillar. Wow, that's painful. Firing 2 EMPs and not detecting it actually hurts a lot. That's a lot of energy that Clem won't have in what seems to be an impending battle. 3 Colossi on the field. Enough that he still forces the Viking count to be quite high. A big part of the unit composition. Ghost Cloak is on the way, but Classic is comfortably expanding. He's now got 5 bases going on 7, including the gold base. 8 more gates in production, doubling it to 16 to be able to rebuild instantaneously. Clem is splitting up some Marines. Go get them, boys. This is a one-way trip. Spots the base. Classic moving down. Another Nexus is spotted as well. And he actually gets the cancel. Or no cancel, rather. Classic losing a few extra minerals, but at the back, there's no Templar in there. Just the charge lots for now. The Marines! Wow, these Marines getting the most counter damage of any unit so far. Classic has been near perfect on defense, but 8 Marines without a medevac running by after killing a Nexus, get some probes. But again, the Warp Prism has not been dealt with. A single charge lot trying to chop through as much as it can. Will eventually get cleaned up, but anything that keeps Clem at home. He's now got the Fusion Core on the way, angling towards the ranged Liberators and potentially Caduceus Reactor for medevac energy regen. 9 Vikings against 3 Colossi. Stalkers. Scans, Venn Diascan to keep track of things. Building armor's now on the way. Upgrade's going to be maxed out. There's more Marauders than Marines in the composition. The first few Liberators join the field. The main army behind it. He's got 1 Templar in the Prism, drops it out. EMP hits it. The fight commences. The Liberators will siege up Classic, actually just trying to shove in here. And so far, there's a lot of storms on the back, but feels like Classic not entirely... He warps in another round of charge slots. He has money in the bank. He's willing to trade, but he runs the risk of losing a critical mass of his army in trying to fight Clem heads up. That is so many Templar at the back, though. He desperately needs the EMPs. The army is all balled up. The Storm getting near critical damage. Forces the spread. Another wave of charge lots coming in to take advantage of the gaps between the units. Will break through. Most of the Templar have been exhausted or merging into Archons, but Clem is forced back into his own base. There's an Immortal, some Archons down here. That Warp Prism is still intact. I don't think he's lost a single... Well, he lost 1 in this game so far. Building armor is finishing. Not sure how relevant that will be. Vikings trying to close in, but Clem's supply down to 100. Classic! He just shoves his way in, washes away the bio with a storm, and Clem unable to really outmaneuver. It's like trying to outrun a hurricane. It ain't gonna happen, and Clem is forced to tap out. Classic. He knew what he was about. These fights, a lot of the time when a Protoss takes fights like that, it feels like they stumbled into it. And that's why it usually goes so poorly. Where the Templar get EMP'd, the Colossi get knocked down, and they pull back instead of going forward. But here, it really felt like Classic knew he was going to lose at least a significant portion of the fight. But as long as he dealt with a critical mass of the bio units, that's all that mattered. And Clem getting caught a little off guard by the follow-up as opposed to the initial fight. Classic with a decisive game to start things off. Wow. Those fights looked bad. But they ended up okay. Classic, just a very controlled player. After the oldest player to participate in the World Cup. 33 years old. A full 10 older than Clem. But what he makes up, what he doesn't have in speed, actually he is pretty fast. It's not like he's super slow just because he's old, alright? Just saying. For those of you out there, at least one of us is not slow. I think he averages around 400 APM, which is, you know, especially for Protoss, quite respectable. A 2-gate versus an engineering bay block. Okay, not enough pontificating about that last game. This is happening, I said profoundly. NG bay block right on the edge. But I think this is not a soft, this is a semi-hard counter. He's gonna spot the NG bay block, but I feel like Classic anticipated it. Classic and Clem have played, so Classic defeated Clem 4-2 in the RSL finals. It was a pretty decisive series as well. He's just gonna take the third? I feel like that's a fake. Because he knows Clem did not scout the main base. He's not building any additional probes. He's intentionally cutting probes to get more done with the 2-gate. Oh. The mind games. Wow. He cut probes to make sure he got these adepts out. And Clem is thinking, yeah, okay, I got a bit of an economic lead here. I can exploit the fact that he's forced to take the third on the outside. There's a pretty good position. Little does he know, he did not scout up the ramp. And that little bit of extra greed, I think he's gonna do a starport Hellion drop. I have no idea. Like, the Adepts shouldn't be able to get past the wall. And Adepts are not very good at dealing with Hellions. Well, this is quite a quandary. What? How does this... Huh. This is a very unique scenario. Gonna spot the reactor. There's 2 Hellions. He's willing to go in. Almost gets that last hit. The second Adept, though, will come as a surprise for Clem. He can melt one of the Adepts under the cleansing fire of the Hellion. Meanwhile, though, the Stalkers come up, and he may be able to shut this down before it even starts. Takes out the Hellion. Well, this has gone from potential aggression to fighting for his life as Stalkers are rallied across. There is an expansion on the way. The Widowmine will burrow on the high ground. I don't know if Classic saw it or, well, either way, he doesn't want to come up to the high ground. He doesn't have vision right now, and I'm sure he'll look for that Widowmine mine. But what was supposed to be economic harassment is now a shoestring defense. Clem has to MacGyver his way out of this one and tries to go up and snipe off the Widowmine. Doesn't quite find it. 4 Hellions. The starport, he built a medevac, and now he has to send it back home to pick up the Hellions. All right, your Uber's here. But he does escape out, drops the Hellions out of the base. And Classic is backing off. I'm sure anticipating something. As why would Clem not bother poking? Well, unfortunately, he anticipated a bit too late. And the probes will be incinerated. He recalls back the Stalkers, but they're going to get several shots off beforehand. 5 probes dead and counting. 6. And he runs right by. Gonna try to get up to the main base, but there's enough Stalkers he can physically block the Hellions. Stop right there, criminal scum. Wanted for murder. And honestly, the reaction time was great. The probe split was good. 6 probes for 4 Hellions when that's most of most of Clem's early game potential. I think that's a strong start. And now a Widowmine slams into a Stalker on the way across the map. The starport has to be lifted off again. Meanwhile, the main base, though, a Cyclone, he can potentially lock on... Well, he's targeting the shield battery. Meanwhile, the Stalkers at the front just picks up, still exploiting the fact that the third base is so far away, but without a bunker. And even with a bunker, it would have been difficult, but without one, these Stalkers are getting a lot of damage done. Siege tank about to complete. Some of the probes will be targeted. The shield battery won't be enough to stop this. Puts the tank on the high ground. Blink is completed, though. Classic actually just blinking back. I'm definitely not happy to see it. The Cyclone, some Marauders added in. A whole bunch of extra damage here. But Classic still just trading out. Snipes off the Cyclone, working on the Marauder, takes it out. And the Blink Stalker is starting to add so much damage. Clem down 13 workers. The siege tank moving up a little bit closer. But Clem, fire has been canceled by fire here. Classic's 2-gate opener against the... Oh, the second tank, though. Oh, no, the tank! He dove in. He blocked it. And suddenly, just like that, the dichotomy of Blink Stalkers. Oh, no. The unsieged tank, enough to drive this back. There are 5 Stalkers with, like, 2 Stalkers of HP between them. And now Clem has some real potential to counterattack. The Marines dropped out, 10 probes dead. What a hectic game. Observer coming across. But Classic, he blunked a little too far. And it certainly cost him. There's an observer above. I'm sure Clem knows about it, but does he have a scan? He does in a moment, but probably won't use it unless he really wants to move out. And right now, unlikely to be able to do so. He saw the observer and he realized the potential for blinks into the main. That's why Clem backed off. Yeah, he sees it there, but Classic will just blink right by. The tech lab could be targeted, and Stim, 3/4 of the way done. No, it's a disaster. The SCVs couldn't get in position nearly in time. And now the Stalkers will take out a tank and just leave. More than making up for the mistakes of earlier, those Blink Stalkers just completely undercut Clem's position in the game. And now, I think Classic has not only restabilized, but he's taken a significant advantage. And oh no, the medevac on the run. The Stalkers are stalking. And you can't recall the medevac, unfortunately. And Storm has begun. This game has only been 8 minutes. Wow. An action-packed exchange. But we've eventually ended up at that more mid-game sort of situation. Unfortunately for Clem, he doesn't really have nearly the options. The medevac somehow slipped around all the way past the Superstorm Star Trek looking thing at the back. I believe Classic spotted it, but just wasn't able to pick it off in time. But through all the fire and fury, Clem has built up quite a strong army. Has he spotted the Templar Archives? He has. But can he fight against the Storm? Great game, by the way. You should play it. Classic is keeping up with Clem. He's got his number here. And Clem, being as young as he is, probably doesn't understand what a phone call is. So, when Classic calls it, well, it's just heavy breathing when he responds, because of course Protoss don't have mouths. Right, Skippy? Just now getting a forge. The upgrades have fallen by the wayside. The Storm Hammer. Only 8 SCVs, but he comes back in for another round and 10 more added to the tally. A devastating Category 5 Storm, and even if he loses the Templar and the Prism, I think it was worth it. Again, Clem, so close to recovering economically, yet so far. The Storms hit home. And now Clem has to go. He has the army supply lead for a moment, but he doesn't have any ghosts. It's going to be incredibly difficult to engage this army on the open field. And the more constricted it is, the more powerful Storm becomes. Sieges up the tanks, the Templar on the back line, but he's not getting baited into siege tank fire. Meanwhile, the drop at the back, starting to grind through, will kill some of the probes, actually just backs off. The 4th Nexus under fire, not that he needs it, but the Stormhammer Prism. He drops right on top. The Widow Mine hits the siege tanks, blunks forward, takes out the tanks. The Storm's coating all of the Marauders. And Clem, routed on the field. The medevacs will be taken down with all the units inside. The Marines left over are not going to be remotely enough to stop Classic from storming his way into match point. Wow. Another decisive victory for Classic, matching Clem in the early game and actually taking control of the situation. Clem getting a bit greedy, one of the most typical Terran and possibly predictable moves. It was definitely a gamble in going for the 2-gate. If Clem scouts that, he's so far ahead. Like, if he just has a bunker back at home, but he didn't go up the ramp. He didn't scout the base because no one goes 2-gate. Well, that's no longer true. No one goes 2-gate because a bunker defends it on its own. What a gamble in such a high-profile match. But Classic, as Protoss, you always got to have another card to play. Yes, you can have like a stable mid-game strategy, but getting there against a especially an aggressive Terran. That's the hard part. Classic has so far managed both with extreme economic greed and early pressure to keep Clem busy for long enough to get the storm and bring his unit composition together in order to crush whatever comes at him. And now Clem has to win 3 in a row against a Protoss player who does not seem intimidated. The thing about the way Classic is playing is Clem doesn't get a lot of opportunities to show off his micro. Like, his almost abusive looking medevacs, his dodging in and out of bunkers and dancing in and out of disruptor shots is irrelevant compared to the electronic storms. Electrifying. Psionic. Psionic electricity. Stop talking. It's like the old adage, where the Diamond Terran, or the Diamond Protoss, walks up to the bartender and psionically transmits, "Hey, behind... I'm ruining the joke. Okay, let me restart. Walks up to the bartender, but there's no bar. And he asks, where's the counter? It's out there in the storm. Something about storm countering Marines. I butchered that joke harder than Classic butchered Clem in the last 2 games. I was trying to adapt it to the specific situation, but so far, much like Clem, I did not. Though Clem almost slipping back, the storm drop completely undercutting him again. 2 games in a row the Templar have swung in, and way too many SCVs have been knocked out. Reaper expand. A quick factory for Clem. Classic. Already, wow, he's preemptively getting a shield battery to defend the Reaper and going sentry first. Well, sentry after Stalker. You know, I probably could have figured that one out. And 2 Reapers. But if he gets... That is rough. Losing the first Reaper when you're going for 2. That was supposed to keep some sort of control of the situation. Unfortunately for Clem, he let it slip. Command center just now finishing, and Classic, with the shield battery first, read this perfectly. Clem is an open book sometimes, and Classic is clearly literate. That shield battery first is more than enough to counter the little bit of early pressure here. And the positioning, it has utility for later, defending against everything but like liberators and mines pretty much. Classic is someone who, I think part of his success is that he respects SimCity. Alright, the Protoss architectural decisions that I've lamented in the past from other Protoss who will remain unnamed hero, is not something that is usually a concern of Classic. He's clearly mapped out the options for his pylon placements, his base, beforehand. And putting the right buildings in the right place at the right time saves you so much potential strife and maybe games in the future. There's something to be said for freestyle in every game, but planning out ahead is most important for Protoss because everything has to be built. Like the pylon has to exist before you can build any other buildings. You can't just slap down a wall easily. You have to be ahead of the curve. And so far, Classic clearly doing so. There's Cloak Banshees on the way. There's already shield batteries in the mineral line, so Clem will likely want to wait for 2 of them. Blink is nearly complete. The medevac was revealed, but the Blink Stalkers might be able to pick... Oh no, the timing is perfect. Oh, it's a disaster. Oh no. He gets the Cyclone out, but... Clem keeps trying to get an edge, but Classic is just too well-rounded. A Templar Archives at 5 minutes. And why not? Stalker blocks forward. 2 volleys. Takes out the tank. And what's... The SCVs are pulled. The Reaper Hellion makes it into the main, but there's a shield battery to block it out. The Banshees have Cloak. He's going to have to reveal it, I think, to deal with the Stalkers. Wait, the Cyclone lived! The Cyclone... Well, got a little bit of damage on the Stalkers. He really... Wow. Clem decided he'd rather lose a few more SCVs and Marines than reveal the Banshees. That's a risky move, on top of a series of risky moves that have not really paid off. But if he just used them to defend, then Classic would be ready. But 2 Banshees can punch right through the shield batteries, doing too much damage before they can actually re-shield. And that's the difference here. He's gonna take out the first Templar, and he's working on the probes. It was worth it. It already is clear. There is an observer. The Stalkers, he needs 2 Banshees to punch through the shield batteries, you see there. But he's using the gateways against him. 9 probes, 10, 11. And he gets one into the corner, and he bought so much time. Clem strikes back, finally. Oh, my. Classic with Storm halfway done, but he got a Templar to start things off, and he's anchored so many of these units back at home. Clem actually has the worker lead. I don't know if it'll last forever, considering the 3rd Nexus just completed. Clem has a 3rd command center halfway done in his own base, but... Banshee actually finds a couple more kills on the way out. Nearly out of energy, but should be able to get to safety. The most important thing is the Banshee living at this... He's gonna run out of energy. The Stalkers! Clem! Clem! Oh, no. It's kind of been the story of this series, though. Is Clem getting an advantage and then it being undercut quickly afterwards by Classic's, like, a bit of an unforced error, but Classic was in the right place at the right time. He knew how much energy that Banshee had left. So he knew if he just waited it out, he eventually could take it. It's just surprising that Clem didn't realize the same thing. And here we go. Clem with the triple threat, the +1, the combat shield, the stim on the way. Once it finishes, he becomes a lot more potent, but the Warp Prism is out there. Charge. Classic is on Clem's side of the map. This is about an anti-timing here. Right when Clem just got all his upgrades. But here we go. Another Storm drop with a couple charge lots in tow. The Warp Prism, and he's holding the Templar. A Viking matches him. Think he wanted to bait in some bio units potentially, or just save the Storms. Blunks in. Widowmine actually saves the Stalker. What a slick move there. The Vikings might be able to knock down the Prism. Another set of reinforcements wades through the Storm. Clem gets hit by a bunch of them. There's still a lot of energy left over. 1 EMP comes out. Couple more Storms ready. Dodges back. Warp Prism, 2 HP. 0. Archons microing back. Clem finds him on the open field. Knocks down 2 Archons before they can emerge. But that Warp Prism able to warp in more and more charge lots. The boys are pulled off the line. And again, Classic is able to turn a kind of mediocre fight into an almost dead even one. Over the last minute, Clem definitely getting the better end of these exchanges, but Classic has 69 probes back at home. A very nice economy to rebuild. A 4th Nexus halfway done. He's getting a 2nd Robo and a Robo Bay, a 2nd Forge. But Clem took about the best fight he has against the Templar base composition. That Warp Prism lived. The Prism who lived. The Templar gliding by. But without the Storms, the Bio army easily deals with this. Classic actually just attacking the other way. The energy bridges. The observers go straight to the Storm. EMP. He gets 1 Templar out of it. Another Storm. Kind of mediocre. And Clem is grinding his way through another Storm. He had 1 in the Prism. And the Prism gets knocked down. Clem up 40 supply. Chasing down another Archon is popped easily. Classic trying to buy time desperately now. Clem doesn't quite have the forces to close in for the kill. But if he waits too long, the Colossi will be on the field. Classic able to rebuild. He has had the economy. He has 4 bases, which is a very nice economy right now. Though Clem evening things up with a couple mule drops. 63 to 73 workers in favor of Classic. Charge lots. Spotting for all this. Another huge group of charge lots is headed for the 3rd. There's only a Widow Mine to defend. Ooh. Clem, without the reinforcements here to deal with this, he's going to lose a lot of SCVs. Classic, the Achilles heel here of Clem. Those charge lock counters. This one's huge. 17 SCVs. That's too much. The siege tank is taken down. The stalkers blunk on top. He saves a couple ghosts.
What a save!
But Classic, again, just flipped it all around. Clem can't seem to close the distance and actually attack into Classic once he gets the storms done. Every time he pulls his units forward, Classic has just enough to drag him back. He loads up the drop, but it's time. Clem is putting all of his eggs in this particular basket. 4 medevacs ready to drop in. His tournament life on the line. Classic has played near perfectly so far. But this drop could decide it all. Clem boosting in towards the main. The Templar Archives is vulnerable. The Forges as well. Gonna get right on top of it all. An instant recall, which means he's gonna be out of position. He drops right on top. One of the Colossi will go down instant. Wait, no, I take it back. 4 Colossi. Just incinerating the units on the ground. He's gonna take out the Nexus. Clem gonna get a bunch of probes with it. 2, 3 medevacs are able to escape for now. But he strays too close to the stalkers and loses another medevac of units. Again, Clem. He gets a big victory, but with a few asterisks. 30 probes dead. Though Classic maintains an even supply. The production tab is empty. Classic, wake up! He's using storms. Wow. This is happening. It's like a demonic ritual. Clem, hold position. But again, Clem maintains the supply lead. He's got 2-2 on the way. The recall of just Colossi ended up working out really well. That Warp Prism, a new one. He lost the first one, but a second Warp Prism. And 4 Colossi now with the army. How many Vikings? 7? 3 at a time, double starport, a planetary fortress at the 4th base. Clem, that single medevac drop back out. Classic actually supply blocked with the death of that pylon. Medevac boosts away. The Vikings moving into position to potentially intercept. Snipes off a charge lot. It's a tenuous, well, Classic has the deadly Protoss ball, but Clem actually has the income advantage. He has the upgrades now, too. He needs to land the EMPs. That's a lot of Templar and a lot of Colossi. Storm, a great historical and physical counter to the Vikings. Softens a lot of them up. Great splits on the Templar. He wards away from the base. Classic just shoving the Terran army back. More EMPs, but not getting enough done. The storm front just continues to roll in. Vikings knock out an observer, but he's down. He has 13 Vikings. A full Scandinavia of Vikings now. Sniping what he can. But really just carving apart with the Colossi. Clem trying to be patient. He knows he has still the advantage. But Classic is making it almost impossible with the storms. Tries to get a few free shots before the storms can land. But these armies are just so dangerous. That's so many Templar. He's got 7 Templar. 4 Colossi. Warping in another round. Clem trying to find the army. The Vikings are in autumn colors as well. He's got to be very careful. I'm surprised he doesn't go back and repair. But Classic is going for the throne. He's in between the natural and the third. Clem, with a counterattack of a few units, knocks out a Colossus. The storms will ward away the main army. Those Templar just standing guard as he guts the natural. 13 SCVs dead with it. The orbital command is taken out, and Clem can't seem to close the distance. The charge lots will clean up the counter. Classic Guardian Shield. EMP is landing. The army, so many ghosts involved. But the storms are where it's really at. And Clem, the bio ball, just held back by the tide of storms. Does he have cloak for the ghosts? Are there any observers left? There's one, but it's not with the army. Potentially cloak ghosts. Classic really just wielding this army. Shoving Clem out of position. Those units at a 3rd HP, 1 storm. The charge lot's coming up. Clem's supply is dwindling. One of the Colossi gets caught out. The planetary fortress part of the fight. Ghost comes in, looking for the EMP, doesn't turn in time. There's just so much. Another storm, Archon merge, and Clem being ground down underneath the weight of all this splash damage. Classic now rebuilding probes. He hasn't built probes for like 8 minutes since all the damage dealt by the counterattacks, but Clem is getting desperate. He's down to 37 SCVs. Storm takes out 7 more. The Vikings will take out the Prism, but Clem cleanly swept from the field. The Storm's far too strong. And Classic with a 3-0 versus the 2024 World Champion. Bringing us to our anti-spoiler series. Clem versus ByuN. Clem is Protoss, just to compare and contrast. But, wow. Classic with a decisive victory. Absolutely dominant performance. And Clem looked lost. The answer to the storms, I want to say ranged liberators. But to be honest, we haven't seen a Protoss player so... ByuN, why are you like this? Clem, he's very suspicious. Clem and his metaphorical father, ByuN. Wow. Why is he so... He's played ByuN too many times. We don't even get a moment to discuss, to breathe, because ByuN, of course, is doing a proxy Rex in this little corner, a little further out after stealing away some of the mineral wall. Because, of course, he is. I wonder if that actually prevents it from being spotted from the ramp. That's such a ByuN thing to do. But Classic just... It feels like once he gets Storm, eventually, there's just so much fallback opportunity. We haven't yet seen a player, including Clem. Yeah, this is pretty clear that... Oh my god, an engineering bay block. Clem is building a Zealot already, suspecting something like this. And he'll scout, but... We haven't yet seen a player so... consistently and confidently wield the storms. So many players just have all their Templar and a little Wizard Moot, where they're all within one convenient EMP radius, but Classic, just one storm is enough. So, but the Reaper comes in, the Zealot will angrily try to chase it. It will not succeed unless the Reaper makes a big mistake, but Clem already dealing with this. The proxy in the base Reaper is a bold move indeed, but Clem shut it down before it really started. I will say, Clem is somebody who puts his money where his mouth is. Not that he's necessarily a big complainer, but in this case, I mean, if he thinks Protoss is better against Terran, why not play Protoss? And to this day, the fact that he's playing Protoss versus Terran in the World Cup, he's our first biracial player in StarCraft 2. The first player to consistently, and now as a trend, and yet we have yet to find anyone who's willing to challenge him on it. The closest is Raynor, I think, but like, if Clem wants to play Protoss versus Terran, but say, I don't know who is a masochist, but say ByuN, this would never happen, but if ByuN wanted to play Zerg, alright, but then Clem, we haven't had anyone challenge Clem on it and force us to create new rules about what race you're going to pick each game. That's because, essentially, Clem is like the Otani of StarCraft. He can play 2 races better than pretty much everyone plays 1, with some notable exceptions. Like, he can hit home runs with Terran, and he can pitch with Protoss. But, it depends on the game and the timing, of course. And very simply, Terran versus Terran was his weakest matchup. And this is the first time a player has said, instead of learning to play this matchup better, I'll just play a different race. Which is better for the viewers, better for me as a content creator. I really do appreciate it because mirror matchups do so incredibly bad. It's actually painful. Like, I think mirror matchups can be very interesting, but they just don't appeal. YouTube has decided that they don't appeal. Maybe we'll get Serral versus Raynor or something, and that'll do okay. But compared to, like, random ZVT number 400, it's nothing. So thank you, Clem. And now, the double clone drop from ByuN will be shut down so far. Blink is on the way. I forgot that Clem was the Protoss for a moment, but ByuN is the most Terran, so you never see him playing Protoss. I don't know if that's true, but ByuN feels like a very committed Terran. Clem feels like someone who likes winning, but his way. Whoa, the Adept Shade. He mistimes it just a bit, but he should be able to take out the tech. And the Blink Stalker's finding a lot of damage. The Cyclones from the back Blunks looks for... Oh, great dodge out of ByuN. It knocks out a couple Stalkers. ByuN slipping and slotted around. Doing the hokey pokey with those Cyclones and flipping them all about. You gotta be careful, because if you blink, you'll miss it. But still, ByuN in a precarious position against Clem, who's shut down most of this aggression. 3 racks. Wow, look at this. I swear, I would immediately get a Marauder stuck in this little courtyard here. You could just lift the racks, but still. If there is a space to get your unit stuck, I am the world's foremost expert at doing so. You know how many tanks I've gotten stuck in my main base somehow? I don't, but it's at least 5 digits. And Clem, again. A Templar Archives is on the way. None can say he doesn't learn. I do appreciate that. Templar Archives immediately, and Storm. Though he did put it in possibly the most vulnerable location in the main. Literally the first place that'll get hit if and when a drop comes in. Because this is ByuN we're talking about. The medevac somehow evaded the Stalkers. Does a reverse loop around using the high ground to break vision. ByuN is building up a potentially all-in army. And Clem, well, the Storm is on the way. Energy recharges a Templar, which means it already has enough energy for 2 Storms. Of course, you've got to finish the upgrade. Kind of a key part. Double medevac. The triple threat coming together. Scouting Immortal Clem, no! Oh! Scouting Immortal. A classic tactic. Well, not a classic tactic. Classic wouldn't make that mistake. But Clem, wow, losing an Immortal is not good. Clearly on the same rally point. And now the Templar are being targeted by the Cyclones. He locks on the both. He forces a merge. There's still a full energy Templar and a Warp Prism on the way. Here comes the army. And a single storm already does so much damage. And another storm rips through the Terrans. And just like that, it goes from an opportunity to a rout. Clem picks off 2 medevacs, almost gets a third, and ByuN is stormed off the field. Clem turning the tables. DJ race switch. Nope, we probably shouldn't say that in any way. But. And Clem just shows up and he knocks down the bunk. Is there anything left? There's a few reinforcements, the medevac on the other side. Hey, at least Clem lasted longer. ByuN with a desperate counterattack. The Templar has enough energy for Storm, but ByuN has 2 GGs. 2 Gs first. Well, showing that Clem certainly can learn from the strengths of his opponents, using pretty much classic style there to just beat down ByuN. And even though ByuN had a lot going for him, the proxy didn't do terrible. Not great, not terrible. The Cyclone drop, okay. He picked off the first couple Templar, and he didn't find too much with the Blinkstalkers. But, wow. So far, Protoss looking very good. Specifically Storm. I'm not even sure why we stopped using Storm. It was just, it's one of those things, like Roach pushes in Terran versus Zerg, where players just kind of decide what the meta is, and that's how it is. And I am not convinced it's because of any sort of mathematical statistical reason, but it's just because other players do it. Players assume that's the best way, and for quite a while, that's just how we play. All right? It doesn't matter if, like, other strategies sometimes work. Like, what'll happen is other players will try new... Why are you like this, ByuN? Just, well... This is a Macarex. Well, not really. A Macarex is when you simply just hide the Rex. Based off of Maca Prime. ByuN's teammate, literally 15 years ago. And he first freaked out his opponents by building a barracks like at his natural. They'd scout, see no barracks, and freak out. And that lasted about 6 months, and that was the only time that Maca had success. Still a strategy occasionally used to this day, but this is a slightly quicker proxy Reaper. And the 2 racks are the important point here. 2 racks is twice as much, exponentially more to contend with. And Clem, well, he knows there's no racks in the base. Remember, Clem is an expert on both sides of this matchup, demonstrating it here today. I will tell you. All right. So, I don't usually say the exact context of the match all the time, though. Ooh, citizen's arrest. Deja vu, kind of. Because most people don't care that much, and it's in the description. If you'd like to know what tournament a match is from, 95% of the time, the details are there. I find that the more information you give to people, because we're all monkeys, right? The more information you give, the more chances that they'll be like, oh yeah, I already saw that. Or, I don't really want to watch that one. So, I try to sell you on the feeling of the games, and the substance comes a little later. Which is how a lot of things work, actually. But, moving on. Spots the proxy ranks. But this is from the World Cup. This is actually before Clem faced against Classic. Neither player gets knocked out in this match. ByuN could still turn it around. But based on the fact you're watching this, I think you might have some suspicions. But here we are. The Reapers ended up getting nothing. The SCVs will claim credit for the first kill. The Reapers can beat a Stalker pretty easily. There's a shield battery. It's running back. Get back here. Gets a sip of the shield battery and we'll fight heads up and the Reapers just run right by. Meanwhile, though, the bunker is completed, but there's nothing to put in it. The probes are pulled off the line. And here we go again. The command center is delayed. The bunker will be taken down. A second Stalker will join the first and repel the Reapers. And ByuN. He ByuNgled it. It's a disaster. It's happening again. Clem is just getting too much damage. What have you done? This is a mess. The little grenade animation down the ramp. Here I go. But clearly, this has gone from bad to much worse for ByuN. A Cyclone will lock on. Doesn't quite knock out the Stalker. Another lock. That one will probably get it. Yes, from downtown. This is remarkably similar to the match with Clem up against Classic on the same map. Wait, no, that was Ultra Love when the Stalker's on the low ground. All maps look alike to me. That's not even true, though, because Ultra Love is a very different sort of map. Like, you could make the excuse that we essentially have, like, 2, maybe 3 different map types, and the rest are mostly just reskins that look beautiful, like this one. I will say Persephone is one of my favorite. Just from the aesthetic perspective, I think Persephone might be my favorite of the map pool. Mapmaker is putting so much passion because you can't really change up the layout of the bases because there's so many things that would break the game in a literal, not clickbait sense if you changed it too much. They put so much into the details, which are all over the place, and rarely you get to appreciate the little, yes, a pylon in its natural habitat, where it shouldn't be, hero. I don't... But many of them have little storylines for why the map is. But Blink is completed. Charge is on the way. And if Classic is any indicator, Templar Archive should be next on the agenda while putting on this Blink pressure. There it is. So, even though the matches against Classic were later on in the tournament, remember, Clem played against Classic in the grand finals of RSL about a week before, where Classic was not shy about his usage of Storm. I will say that he used it even more prolifically, that's the right word, right? In the previous match here today. But he definitely was trending towards it. And here's the crazy thing. Is I don't feel Clem responded any better. We don't know what the answer is right now. Besides, unfortunately, Terran versus Protoss units, the units are so ridiculously dangerous to one another. A bio army can completely and utterly annihilate gateway units of equal supply and upgrades without splash damage. Whereas the storms rain down and suddenly the reverse is true. I feel like maybe it's gone too far on both sides. Stim Marines and Marauders are too good, which means splash damage has to be amazing. Also, these 3 Reapers are doing way too... The water balloons and probes. What is this? This is like training swords here. The Blink Stalkers less so. That is why a lot of Terran versus Protoss are these back and forth swings. In fact, Classic versus Clem demonstrated the very bleeding edge, where you can actually go back and forth because both players are so good. ByuN, the most predictable player in the game. The Medivacs? How? Did he just thread the needle of the only place without vision? He did. The double Medivac slipped through between the Zealot and the Stalkers. Will it be enough to turn the tides here? Clem still has the lead as a Protoss in supply. The double drop combat shield is done now as well. There are 4 Templar in that prism as it glides in the storms. Load it up again. ByuN does have a third command center, but he's also looking at a 20 supply deficit. Those medevacs in the back corner. We have the Moopies celebrating the death of a Marine back there. Looks like more are on the menu. Clearly not a reference to anything. There's no copyright infringement here. The charge lots charging, the blink stalkers blinking, the storm callers storming, and ByuN is crumbling. There's far too much, far too fast, and the winner of today, I think, is going to be the storm. This has been quite... Yes, I wanted to showcase Clem, though I do think the pendulum may have swung quite dramatically to the Protoss with Storm. If you don't get the damage done early, it seems unlikely you're going to get enough done at all. So, I'm sure this will inspire some interesting commentary, and I hope at some point in the future we can argue over maybe some changes to energy recharge. But the storms just sweeping away both Clem and ByuN in turn. The abusee becomes the abuser. No? Jimmy, edit that. Edit that out. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But your liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our mule patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jig, Devin, Door, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit. Go ahead, just still enjoy. I hope to see you next time. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill. Bring an umbrella.